Okay, y'all, we're going to continue with chapter 1. The FBI had some questions because there were so many unanswered parts of this case. They told him they were not going to take him to any dark places. They questioned him about his mistress, Nikki, seemingly still finding out if she had anything to do with the murders. They questioned him extensively about the morning of the murders. At the sentencing, Christopher pled guilty, but never gave an account as to what happened, so people were left with his first confession. In his first confession, he told the police he killed Shanann because he caught her killing the girls. Although most people did not believe Shanann would kill her girls, he didn't tell even his family any differently. Then the FBI came to see him. He seemingly was bearing his soul. He told them in great detail how he strangled Shanann, then took her body to the oil field and buried her. Then he smothered each of the girls with Celeste's blanket, and put their bodies down the oil batteries. Later in this book, you will read Christopher's letter where he confesses the real truth, which is an extension of what he told the FBI. He left some very gruesome details out when he talked to the FBI. They promised to keep the information between them, but it was just a few days until it was all over the media. Christopher told me personally the whole story. He is not covering for Shanann. Anyone saying he did not kill the girls based on the evidence is wrong. Christopher wants everyone to know he is guilty of killing all 4 human beings, Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. He said Shanann was a good mom and would never and did not ever hurt the girls in any way. Christopher said he hugely regrets putting the blame on her. Both of them lived for their girls. That's who they were, and the girls were the most important part of their lives. Christopher now lives with great remorse. Yeah, right. The remorse is no doubt from killing his family, possibly for making the wrong decisions, and that he is in prison for the rest of his life. Christopher is hard to read. He does not seem to have emotions. Hearing the voices of Bella saying, "No, Daddy," is very haunting and painful every day to him. But still, there is no emotion. There are times that even though he says he is where he belongs, it seems that being in prison the rest of his life is something very hard to come to terms with or even think about. And he hopes someday he will be free. Child, please. Maybe this is a way his mind has of coping and protecting himself from the fact he will never know any life from here forward than the depressing, unfeeling life of prison. Living in a confused state as he reels back and forth in his mind, trying to make sense of it all, looking for a place to be able to find some comfort or peace in his situation. Can a person could ever find peace after what has happened? He claims that's the reason for his relationship with God, because that is where peace and solace can be found. At times, he talks about his family in the present sense, like they are right with him. He does refer to them being with him in spirit. He's had a couple of dreams that seem very real to him about Celeste and Bella being with him in the jail cell. Oh no. The great challenge for any true crime writer involves drafting a page-turning story that reads like well-crafted literature and simultaneously survives the most detailed of fact checks. It is an impossible endeavor because it carries the assumption that truth is discernible at all levels, and 100% of the facts can always be known. Like all forms of art, true crime literature seeks to capture what is non-decipherable, paradoxically, without fabricating layers of myth and conjecture. Truth laid bare and not really truth at all. We are at the mercy of the killer to tell us deep in his mind and hope he hasn't kept some of the truths hidden where we can't know them. As Christopher told me once, there are some things he will take to his grave. That said, the body of my work strives for accuracy and truth. It is derived from thousands of pages of discovery and court documents, police interviews, discussions with family members, and hundreds of words in the pages of letters from Christopher to myself. How do we know that Christopher is telling the truth? That will be left up to the reader to decide. Christopher objects to some of the things I have written. I believe in part because he doesn't want people to judge him. To this day, I do not know what prompted me to get to know a family murderer other than I needed to know why he would do something like this and tear apart so many lives. How did an innocent child grow into a killing evil monster? I needed to know what made this man tick. Why do we live in a world where so much evil exists? This story does not need embellishment. By the time I tell the whole story, you will see it has enough sensationalism all by itself. What he has told me is an extended version of what he told the FBI on February 18, 2019. I do believe this is the real story. This is the one that is the hardest for him to say. This is the one that brings out the chills. This story is the darkest of anything he has told. Maybe the darkest you have ever heard, too. Chapter 2, Christopher's early years. How people treat you is their karma. How you react is yours. Wayne Dyer. Christopher Lee Watts came into the world as innocent as any other child. Born on May 16, 1985, he weighed 10 pounds. Dang, he's big. And was only 19 inches long. He was born on a sunny, warm day in Fayetteville, North Carolina, at Cape Fear Medical Center. He made his debut into the world on a Thursday around 7 p.m. Ronnie and Cindy didn't have maternity insurance. She stated it took them 18 months to pay for his birth. It was their second child. Ronnie and Cindy's first child was a 7-year-old, energetic little girl named Jamie. She was excited to welcome a baby brother into their family. They grew up close, and they still are today. He was a happy child, always respectful. He adored his father and looked up to him. Cars were their bond together. They went to places like Bristol, Tennessee, and Daytona, Florida. When looking at his pictures and hearing the stories about his very normal childhood, you have to ask yourself, just as his family does, how did this change? Cars were their bond together. Overall, Christopher was very much his dad's son. Christopher took after his father's quiet, friendly, and soft-spoken personality. How could someone like this make such a turn from who they seemingly were and make a decision so horrible and destructive? An introvert, Christopher has never been openly affectionate or emotional. He made good grades in school and never got into any trouble with teachers or authorities. He loved sports, and Ronnie coached his little league teams. They had a good family life, better than most. His parents remain married to this day. He grew up in a modest ranch-style house. His dad worked at the dealership in their small town as a mechanic, and his mother worked in finance. Life was slow and good in the little town of Fayetteville. Summers, especially for Christopher, were easy and laid back. He liked to spend a lot of time just reading, watching television, and spending time with grandmother. He was her favorite. She was a German lady who was not affectionate but loved Christopher and taught him many things about life. He spent a lot of time with her as she watched him while Cindy worked. Cindy and her mother did not get along, living just down the street. Her mother tried to control Cindy, tell her how to raise her children. Although his grandmother was extremely negative, that didn't rub off on Christopher. In his teen years, he never dated. He was socially very awkward. He had 2 good friends growing up, though, and really never varied from those 2 friends. They remain friends today and were hurt by the tragedy. Not being able to believe Christopher could do something like this. When the couple of friends went to school dances, he stayed home and watched television with his parents. He didn't mingle or go to parties. He never got into the usual teenage trouble. He never drank or did drugs. He wasn't bullied by other kids. He got along well with everyone. He was known just to fly under the radar. Cindy says perhaps he was too perfect of a teenager to be true. Christopher went to a Baptist church when he was growing up. His religious teachings made him fear he would go to hell if he died while sinning. The fundamentalist religion taught him he could not drink, go to dances, or have sex before marriage. Christopher was afraid of God and put him in a box. He felt if he did anything to displease God, he would go to hell. But as long as he obeyed all the rules and didn't sin, God would be pleased with him. Cindy said she could hear him in the bathroom, repenting over and over to God for his sins he felt he had committed. Cindy said she never knew what those things were. He repeated himself in an OCD manner. Christopher and Shanann did not follow a religion. He told me he feels bad that he never asked Shanann where things were with her beliefs or how she felt about God. When Christopher graduated high school, he went to a NASCAR technical school. His dream was to work on car engines for NASCAR. He tried to get on the circuit, but never made it. He set out to work and bought his tools and was very proud of the accomplishments. He had about $25,000 worth of tools, which his parents sold after he went into prison for only $3,000. Money went a long way back then, bringing home about $2,500 a month. He had the chance to save money for his future, which he looked forward to marry and have children of his own. He had his own apartment, good credit, was good with money, and was always responsible with his bills. The Watts family was good with their budgets, and they lived frugally. They taught him well. Even as an adult, he never dated much. He was still too shy. It isn't that he didn't like girls, because he says he did. When his cousin told him about Shanann, he wasn't very interested at first until he saw her picture. To him, she was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Maybe it was because it was through Facebook, so it felt less threatening, or maybe seeing how beautiful she was, he had the nerve to ask her to friend him. At first, she didn't answer his request, but his cousin Shanann's friend told her what a nice guy he really was. Shanann figured she didn't have anything to worry about just being friends with him on Facebook, so she finally accepted his request. They became friends and decided to meet. They hit it off and dated for a couple years before deciding to get married. Shh! He had both sides of the family together at the beach when he proposed to her. It was very romantic. The ring was beautiful, and they made a beautiful couple. From there, it was all wedding plans. They were married in November of 2012. There are many crimes and family murders. Some get media attention, some are barely spoken of. What makes some notice and others not at all, I think in this case, we all felt we knew the Watts family. People could relate to a modern-day upper-middle-class family. Shanann had a large presence on Facebook and YouTube. She invited us into her home to share with us all about their lives. She introduced us to her little girls, to Christopher, and even the family dog Dieter. Shanann was always positive and helpful. Some felt they lost a family member or a friend when she was murdered. Therefore, because so many people felt like they knew her, it became a popular crime, one people followed daily. She was live on Facebook and social media many times daily. Christopher says this was an area of stress for him. He did not want to be on camera, and many times Shanann would put him there spontaneously. She was social and loved being in front of people and in front of the camera. He was an introvert and did not like the attention. She loved selling Thrive and helping those who were selling under her downline. Yet not all that a person puts on social media is really the way it is. Facebook is a place people can easily post what they want others to believe their life is, and often after posting it enough, start to believe to be true. Obviously, there are many things that Shanann posted that were very different from the way it truly was. Shanann had no way of knowing she could die and people would be able to look into her private life and know everything intimate about her. Shanann did portray them as a perfect, happy family and would often brag about how lucky she and the girls were to have Christopher. I don't like the way this author is speaking. Except for the financial issues, she probably really did believe it, because she beamed on videos as she talked about her family, about remaining positive, and about everything happens for a reason. Did this happen for a reason? Not for a good reason. The Ruszczyks and Watts family have been treated brutally as the media harassed them, and people who must have their own set of mental issues made these families miserable for months. People became obsessed with the story. Those people took away both families' right to mourn and try to heal and get closure. These people have suffered at the hands of those who feel they have the right to know everything. They have the kind of pain that time does not heal. Every day is a struggle. They are the collateral damage. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures that Shanann had taken to preserve the memories for the future. Little did she know those pictures would be what would help her family once she was not here. Memories that are frozen in time through pictures. What a gift to cherish, but as the memories are frozen in time, so are their lives. They will never get to see their granddaughters drive a car, go to prom, have their first boyfriend, get married, or have children of their own. They were cheated of being able to experience those things. Shanann will never get to experience being a grandmother, holding her first grandchild, or growing old with her husband. This tragedy is reaching far into the future, all frozen in time. August 13th, 2018. Cindy Watts keeps asking herself why she didn't see this coming, and were there signs she missed. She blames herself because she and Shanann didn't get along. They never got along from the beginning of Christopher and Shanann's relationship. The last time she saw Christopher before the murders was August 5th. He told her that he and Shanann would be separating. Cindy told him that day she hoped he wasn't seeing someone outside of his marriage. Oh, yes, he was, though. He assured his mother he was not. He was deceptive even then. But that is not unusual during an affair. Lying and deceiving others while living a double life comes easily over time. A mother does not stop loving a child no matter what he has done. So, of course, the Watts still love Christopher. The mother-child relationship is only second to God's love. And unconditional love is the closest human relationship there is. His mother doted on him. She was used to having a lot of control in Christopher's life. Yet Ronnie, his father, was the one Christopher looked up to, calling him his hero. Now in the judicial system, they have no say or control. Yep. In part, his mind may have blocked out exactly what happened that morning. Oh, great. In trauma, one becomes anxious and out of control. Christopher brought that trauma on himself. Christopher knows he is required penance. He owes Shanann, Nico, Bella, and Celeste. But his biggest penance to God, he is paying for the crime with the rest of his life. He is a broken man put together by the grace of God. The couple of months leading up to the murders may put the pieces of the puzzle together for the why Christopher did this. It has been very important to Christopher what people think of him. He says he has always tried to be good to people, always be kind and helpful, and what people thought of him made a difference. It bothers him that people hate him, and he puts it, judge him. People judge what they have seen, so they hate what he has done more than they hate him. Many want to see this evil person in prison for the rest of his life. Many would have chosen for him to get the death penalty. Me! It's not easy for people to let go of what happened. Maybe it's because they are trying to find a way to make sense of it. Christopher says maybe people can relate to their lives, that they could be